Everybody, good evening. It's Monday, and I'm Mike. That's Wendy, and we're in the Marriage Shop. Welcome.
Yes, yes. So we're glad to be back. And we're glad that you're here with us. So, Lady T, always glad when you drop in and join us in the house. Angie Green, thanks for
Hey.
being here. We're always glad when you guys join us, and you're a blessing to us, and we hope to be a blessing to you. It is Monday yet
Yeah.
again. I think it is. We survived the July 4th weekend last weekend, and hopefully all of you had an enjoyable time. It was safe. It was fun, and your animals didn't have too difficult a time. Our animals had kind of a rough time.
We had a rough time because people out here think that we're in Fallujah, and it was going off out here. There are things that people are shooting that people should not be able to shoot into the sky.
Yeah.
So the dogs were having a time, but we made it. We made it. I think, yeah. So it's good. So hopefully y'all had a good time. And if that's you firing off all kinds of rockets and bombs and whatnot,
yeah.
Hey, do you? I'm just saying, people.
Yeah.
Does it take all that? It's crazy.
Fireworks certainly today are not what they were back in the day. I mean, some of the stuff that they're firing off in our neighborhoods is on par with what they were firing off in like state parks.
Yeah, these are professional grade fireworks down here.
Yeah.
So you remember the Roman candle? Some of y'all may remember the Roman candle. It was about maybe, I don't know, 12, maybe 18 inches long, about a quarter around in diameter, and you put it in the middle of the street, and it's just like, foop, 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 and it threw up some, red, yellow, green, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
And so it was like, ooh, Roman candle. Man, now you hear, I mean, literally, it sounds like military grade equipment.
Yeah.
And then then there's explosions, and it's crazy.
It is a little crazy. I remember those. I can almost remember the smells of what it smelled like after they burned. And my favorite thing was what they call the little snake things. They were these little black charcoal looking tablets.
I never got those.
Never got those?
I mean, we had them. I just don't understand why. I mean, it just starts growing, and
I always thought that was cool. It was like a little thing. It went from being a little tablet, and then it would just like it would grow and curl up. I love those things.
I'm like, I would always wonder, what does this have to do with the? I mean, even a sparkler, which, by the way,
that was my other favorite.
Like that's like white phosphorus or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. Crazy to put this in the hands of children, but whatever. We had them. We had a blast.
Yeah.
But even that I got. But the whole snake thing that just grew, it's just
Yeah.
It was a weird addition.
Well, I'll just say that even as a child, I appreciated things that changed, but I didn't necessarily embrace the loud things. Like I never got into firecrackers. In fact, I don't think I've ever lit a firecracker in my life.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was always, I just remember being small with my dad over on the side, lighting up little snake things and holding a sparkler as far away from me as I could. I could appreciate it, but I just didn't.
So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have lit many a thing. And in fact,
you probably put firecrackers inside stuff.
I did.
Yeah,
like we put them inside toys. We buried them. We try to find, I don't know, a cricket. Boom, throw a firecracker at him. Or like when, and some of y'all may know, some of y'all have done this. Don't judge me, right? But there was one firecracker I really wanted to go off, but it stopped early, and the fuse was about so long, and I'm like, I think I can do it.
No, that's how people get hurt.
I know, but I couldn't. I was like, I think I'm fast enough, and you tell yourself as a young person, or apparently, I was gonna say a name, but I won't say a name. But there's some adults who think they're fast enough, apparently too. I think I can do it. So I took that bad boy and I lit it, and I caught back, and as soon as I let it go, pow! And so when something explodes close to your head, like in case you don't know, it's like nothing, and maybe ringing, and then numbness from here. So I'm like, oh no, I have messed around and blown my right hand off. What am I going to tell my parents? So then the first thing I thought was not how's my hand. It's like, what am I going to say? How am I going to? So it was that was a problem. So live and learn. But look, I made it.
I think as you get older too, you hear all the horror stories, and certainly if you all know people who have been injured by fireworks or firecrackers or whatever, cherry bombs, whatever it is, there's always sad stories about people that have gotten hurt or even killed by fireworks. But I agree, like you, Angie, I like to watch them from a distance, like at Disney World or, on New Year's Eve or whenever. And there's like a fireworks show that's kind of like safe and it's like way out in the atmosphere. It's loud. But even now, I think as I get a little bit older, it gets to be a bit much. But anyway, we say all that to say, hope you guys had an enjoyable time and you're joining us tonight. Michelle Moore Wilson, thanks for dropping in. We miss you. We're glad you're back. Darren Cherry, thank you for being here.
What's going on?
Yeah. So we're excited that you guys are joining us tonight. We're back after being off last week to spend time with our family. Hoping that you spent time with your family and had some fun on the 4th of July. So you're Mike, I'm Wendy. We're in the Marriage Shop, and it's the second Monday. And on second Mondays, I put it in there. If you know, you know. We try to tackle some topics that are relevant to, but not exclusive to, single people who are either in relationships but not married yet, who are maybe entering into a relationship but not married yet, or who are not in a relationship but plan to get married at some point.
Right. And so, and somebody hits up really like, oh, I guess I'm out tonight then. Like, I'm like, no, you're not out tonight.
No.
This is the Marriage Shop, y'all. So there's knowledge for you to drop, but there's also things that you're going to take away.
Yeah.
Right. Every time. And so, don't drop off but second Monday, we do things that are relevant to singles. But everything we talk about is relevant in your marriage as well.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find tonight is the same.
Yeah. And I think this one is actually relevant in your marriage because it's also true in some marriages. So anyway, the last time we were with you a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, should you be searching or no, that's not what we were talking about. Wait, that was something else that I wrote down here. What were we talking about?
Hold on. So
I had it down. Oh, we were answering a question from the Ponsier show. It was when you said we got a rock star in the house. Yes, we answered a question from a young woman at the Ponsier show. I'm like, wait, that's what I wrote down here. Anyway, so funny. We were answering a question. So a few weeks ago, I had the privilege of joining one of our good friends here in the Augusta area for the taping of her show. And we asked you to go and like her page, the Ponsier Show. And
right on cue, there she is.
Yeah, we had an amazing time.
There she is.
Oh, there she is. Hey. Hey. And so it was an amazing experience. She is a visionary. She brought talent. She brought vision. She brought entertainment. And she brought relevant conversation to our area. And I'm hoping that goes worldwide.
It is. It should. It was absolutely amazing. It was fire. So
Yeah.
So we look forward to that next show.
Yeah.
And Deron, hey, share this with your son if you can.
Mhm.
Deron said his son is engaged. So
Oh yeah. Go ahead, tag him. Bring him on in.
All right.
Yep. So if you were with us last week, or if you weren't, you can check out all of our old videos from the Marriage Shop. They're on our page. Just click videos. If you had not followed the Marriage Shop in the past, or if you had just liked the Marriage Shop in the past, now they have a whole new interface as of this week. And so now you have the opportunity to just follow the page without liking it. So whether you like or follow us, we just want you to join us on Mondays at 7. Most Mondays at 7. And when we're not going to be here, we try to tell you that we're not going to be here. But we were answering a question from a young lady that was asked at the end of the show. And she was talking about how easy it is for young people these days to just leave their relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's what we talked about last week. So what are we talking about tonight?
This week, we're going to talk about leaving your ex in the past, right? And getting on to that next thing. Because a lot of times we find that we're responding to the person we're with right now, not based on that person exclusively. We're bringing a whole lot of baggage forward. And so if you looked at the title, if you looked at the write-up before, we bring a lot of things from our past, right? We bring the things we like, the things we don't like. We bring hurts and hangups, and we drag them into relationships. And then all of a sudden we're responding to that new person.
Yeah.
But we're doing it in a way that suggests that we haven't totally shed the old person, right? And so I know none of you want to be making reservations for 3 at that dinner that you're going to, right? So it's important to be able to leave the past in the past, but that is hard to do. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about why it is. Why do we drag those things forward? And maybe talk about a couple of ways that we leave them in the past.
Yeah, I think that's good. And so I'm laughing because Lady T says they were on December 31st, 2021 episode about trust. So it's real easy to click on our page and think we're live like at that point. So and funny. So Shannon says, right.
Because she said trust is important. I'm like, yeah, trust is important. Appreciate that, Lady
That's
T.
good. And we appreciate Shannon gave us he calls us the hot Perrys. I love that. Humble, open, and transparent. Yes, man, yes. We'll receive that.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. So when we talked about this, and we often, you'll hear me say all the time, we talked about this before. It was back on whenever. But this time, it was only a couple of months ago when we were talking about should you be searching or waiting to be found? And in the midst of that conversation, we talked about this whole idea of past hurts and hangups and things like that. And so through our experiences, through conversations, through movies that we watch, whatever it is, sometimes as people describe it, God pricks our hearts to share something. And I think that it brought us to this topic tonight in terms of having an ex, but the ex is still with you in some ways. And we don't necessarily mean physically with you. So we're not really talking about a table for 3, but maybe it really is kind of a table for 3.
It's the table or 4 of your mind.
Or more. Yes.
So, and so, I think it's important to recognize most people have past relationships, right? Before you find the one or that one you're really considering, and the one that you ultimately married, folks, we all have relationships in the past. And so, but those relationships, I believe each and every one of them, they ended for a reason. And so we like to think, hey, you know what, that's over. I'm on to the new thing, the next thing, and it's going to be great. Right. And sometimes we go in believing that, but then little things from the past begin to creep up, because from the past, a lot of us have residue. Some of us have wounds. Some have scars from the past, reminders from the past. Some things that are not even really immediately at your conscious level of attention, but it's just sitting back there kind of waiting for somebody to flip that switch, hit that trigger, and boom, the trigger hits. And all of a sudden, now you are reacting and responding to this new person, who may not be new, by the way, but you respond to this current person, the present person, in a way that may have that person like, wow, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, why are you feeling this way? Why are you saying those things? Why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's just as automatic as anything. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, I think part of that too, as you describe it, is when things seem familiar, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not sure what is triggering you or what the thing is that kind of sets you in a place, somebody says something, you hear something, they look at you a certain way, and all of a sudden in your mind you are replaying what has happened to you before, and it's like, I know what this is. That's exactly what your brain is saying.
Yeah.
I know what this is. And when your brain says I know what this is, and your body responds to your brain, and so all of a sudden the messaging becomes, I know what this is, I've been here before, and I'm going through this again. So everything that I did, everything that I felt, everything that I believed when it happened before comes rushing back,
Yeah.
even if it was somebody different.
Well, right. And a lot of times it's not even, I'm going through this again. A lot of times it's like, you're not going to talk to me like that. Maybe it's like, you're not going to catch me slipping. Right. Excuse me. Maybe it's just, what are the types of things that we're talking about? Like, and I'd love for you to hear you all, hear from y'all, see from y'all in the chat. What are the types of things that triggers people sometimes?
Yeah.
Like something from the past that may pop up. And if that's you, you don't have to say it's you. You can say, hey, like, I heard this from somebody, right? But there are all kind of things that get people like responding to something that's not necessarily happening in the present. All right. If you know what I'm talking about, go ahead and put it in the chat.
Yeah. So I want to address this while you guys are dropping that in the chat. I'll give you like 5, 2, 1. Okay. I was pausing because I don't want to necessarily talk while you're thinking or while you're typing, but I want to address Shannon's question. He says the past is over. So why I got to even talk about it? My wife is who I'm with, and that's what's important to me. And that is true. But here's why, right? Here's at least one answer as to why it's important to sometimes talk about the past. Because what happened in your past definitely informed and helped shape who you are today. And so sometimes who you are today, only being a result of what has occurred in the past, is not really being informed by anything else. It is, you made adjustments, you made changes, you made allowances, you made all these concessions in the past to accommodate a person or a situation or a time. And so now you're still operating in that same way. And those rules and those circumstances no longer apply.
What you're talking about is survival, right? A lot of times, and this isn't every case. And so, we can't deal with every single type of scenario, but oftentimes you do what you have to do to survive and get through certain situations.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even feel like survival initially sometimes, right? You're just reacting and responding. And the next thing you find yourself in a situation where I just need to make it through this. Yeah. And so you do some of those concessions you talk about, some of those adjustments that you mentioned, you do it. And so you get out of that situation. All of a sudden, now you've moved on, you're in another situation, but you begin to see things that pop up that maybe it reminds you of something. So, and so Lady C said, dishonesty, for example, great example. Why? Because if you've been in a relationship where dishonesty was a thing and it was a huge problem and you escaped that relationship, you left that behind. Well, in the current relationship, if dishonesty pops up, and it almost doesn't matter what type of dishonesty, right? Because the connection is made because it doesn't have to be a specific thing. It may be like, all I said was I was at the grocery store, but maybe you were at the doggone, at Home Depot, right? You weren't where you said you were.
Yeah.
It might be a simple thing, right? Maybe it doesn't seem like a whole lot. But for somebody with a history where there's dishonesty there, well, that becomes a huge deal, because if you're not going to tell me the truth about this thing, well, maybe you're not going to tell me the truth about that other thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that fair? No, but that's what our brain does, making those associations, right? And so part of the trick, and we're not going to try to answer what to do in that. Well, I will talk about what happens in that scenario is, consistency. There's history can't be rewritten, but somebody's heart can be rewritten, right? The way that somebody sees the world can be rewritten with a new experience. And we'll talk about creating space for something new. But just understand that we all come in with baggage, and those triggers are potentially going to get tripped, even when the person who tripped it has no idea that they've hit a soft spot.
Yeah, I mean, and I think another example of that is if somebody was unfaithful in your past, right? If someone cheated on you in your past relationship or marriage, and we're talking to the singles, so in your past relationships, and we're talking to the married people or marriage, and then you're in a new relationship with someone new, right? And like you said, whether it's dishonesty, whether it's looking at somebody else with that second look, or whether it's talking on the phone in the car before they come in the house, all of those things may put you in a posture of not trusting, being untrusting of that other person, because they're exhibiting behaviors that are not necessarily signaling that they're up to anything nefarious or untruthful, or that they're being unfaithful, but your association is that I've seen this before, I've been here before, and it's not going to happen to me again. So then you overreact to maybe some of the things that may be simple cues, but you're making an association based on the emotion and past history.
That is really, really that's so good, because the more difficult that situation was, the more, we'll say, traumatic it was, right? The stronger the association, right? And so your brain, it has two functions: to protect you and to keep you comfortable. That's really what the brain does, right? And so anything that was significant in your life that was very uncomfortable, hurtful, then you're just innately going to want to protect yourself against that. And so the association is really strong. So when that thing comes back up, there's like a reaction that you probably aren't even driving, right? It happens. Concierge said, "Lord Jesus, this is good." She said, if her ex was fine and a cheater, I might dismiss the next fine man because I associate fine with dog. Yes. Right? It's like, yo, that one right there, but nah, like, he's gonna be problems.
Yep, he's gonna be problems. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's good. Angie says, old wounds not dealt with. That's exactly right. I mean, and some things we do deal with, but some things we try to ignore, we try to suppress, we try to hide. And it's difficult to move through because maybe you covered it up, but it doesn't take a whole lot to just kind of blow the dust off of it, especially if that thing resurfaces. It's always uglier and worse than it was when you covered it up. Always.
And so if you're on the receiving end of this heat, there are certain things you should know that will trigger kind of these reminders, or at least these reactions that are actually from the past, right? It could be places, events, shows. We've been through that, like, television shows. It could be like, certain phrases and words. It could be things that simply annoy you, right? And certainly things that hurt you. Anything associated with those things can begin to have you reacting to something that's not necessarily happening in this moment.
Yeah, that's good. And so Shannon says, my bonus kids miss their father, rest in peace. So I truly feel like I can't even connect with them because they miss the past. I don't know, Lord, help. I truly appreciate y'all. Yeah, I mean, in that situation, you cannot change history, right? You also cannot speak to history. All you can do is take what you're given, what you have in front of you, and move forward with it, right? So everything doesn't require forward focus, but some things do. And especially when you can't go back and change what has already happened. You can't go back and correct something that happened in the past. You can't go back and regenerate or change the narrative on something that has already happened. So what opportunities do you have? It's about the experiences, memories, and the encounters and the exchanges and everything that you want to happen from right now. This is where I met you. And from here is where we go forward, which is true in second, third marriages. It's true in blended families. All we can do is accept where we are and move forward. Even if you're not blended, second or third marriage, all we can do is accept who we are and move forward from here.
So, and I, to that specific situation, I'll simply say the only thing you can do, and this is kind of true for everything we're talking about tonight, all you can do is continue to show up. Right? Because there is a whole experience that this other person that you're dealing with is dealing with. And to some degree, they have to work through some of the things. And some of the recommendations we have for tonight are really for that person who has the baggage, right? But I'll just say for anybody, and we all got it, right? It just depends on when you get your turn at bat. But when you're dealing with people who have something like that type of hurt from the past, from a lost loved one, all you can do is keep showing up and stand still. Keep showing up and stand still. Be consistent, right? And don't try to create anything. Let whatever that thing is blossom and create itself, right? Because there's all kind of things that people have to work through when they've lost someone, and particularly when you're in a role like what Shannon's talking about. When you're in that role, then people will often they resist because, hey, you know what, you're not my father, and so I don't want to create that because that's dishonoring, right? And so you have to work it out because it's possible to create something new, and people realize how to do it. It just takes time for them to figure out how to create it. All you got to do is not force the issue; just keep showing up. And that's it.
Yeah. And relationships evolve over time. It's something that you shouldn't try to rush. It's not a turnkey type thing, right? Some people talk about turnkey houses, like everything is ready to go. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to renovate anything. It is exactly the way that you need it to be from day one. And that's just not true for most relationships. Relationships are rarely turnkey. And if they are turnkey, then somewhere down the road is going to require a renovation. And so when you walk into it, it may feel comfortable. It may look familiar. It may be everything that you imagined it could be. And as it evolves, there are different things that are then revealed. It's like finding that little door. Those creepy little doors in the room, and you're like, what is this little door for? What's coming through this little door?
Do they do that?
I don't know. I don't like
it's
those.
Like, I don't need that attic access.
I'm on a tangent. But it's like, where does this go? Or like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which y'all know, like, taking it all the way back. I mean, what stands beyond that exterior surface, right? What's behind this door as we go through? I mean, I think that's kind of what marriage is. We're like systematically going through to different rooms in a house and wondering what we're going to find behind door number 2. Yeah. So Lady T says, yes, the Holy Spirit has been dealing with me in this season. And I love that you guys so openly share. We're going to have them on.
Yep. Yeah. Y'all up for that?
Yeah. We'll bring you on.
Yeah, we'll bring you on.
Sure. So as it pertains to this, what's behind door number 2? I went in the kitchen yesterday. When I went in the kitchen, it was this way. I came back the next day and somehow everything has moved around. Something has shifted in that environment. What is that about? During COVID, it was so different for many of us because we were now sharing space. And we were forced to share spaces that we hadn't shared before. So we were seeing things that we had not seen before. And so now here we are, and we're now seeing things. Things are falling out, falling over, crawling from underneath. And it's like, wow, why do you do that way? When will you stop doing that? Can I have a little bit of room or a little bit of space? I mean, it was different for all of us. And so we're all kind of starting in this place of relearning, continuous learning, and evolution. And so, go ahead.
Yeah. I think, and it's, it's important to understand that a lot of times things can start off and it's great. It's like, we're good. I mean, we're moving. It's just us now. Right. And then, boom, something happens. It could literally be a day on the calendar.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we've been together for 5 years. That other thing crashed out at 5 years. And then,
that's
boom,
true.
Like all of a sudden, things seem to shift. It's like, whoa, what happened, right? And so you have to be. I'm not saying like be vigilant and be watching for some things to happen, but when things do occur, it's important to have a good, deep conversation about what's going on. Like, what are you feeling?
Yeah.
What brought that about, et cetera. Right. And so it's important to have a conversation about those things.
That's good. So Angie says, what if, can you scroll up? She says, what if the spouse is still in the past of what the ex did or you covered it, didn't do? How does the current relationship move forward? So say a little bit more about that, because I think I understand what you're saying, but I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying before we before I answer that. So if you could say a little bit more, you think you know, or you?
No,
Okay.
I'll let no. That's good.
Okay. So, yep. So add a little bit more in there so we can get to that. I'm playing serious. This is a great topic for singles. If we have had a traumatic dating experience, it can be incredibly difficult to let your guard down and be open to love out of fear of being hurt again. And we then immediately shut down a potential relationship when something familiar occurs in a relationship.
Yeah.
That is so true. And thank you for sharing that. And it's true. As we approach so many different things in our lives, you hear people saying things like do it afraid and jump and then figure it out. And, all of these things to try to motivate you past that fear. The only thing that gets you past the fear is confronting it and making a decision to move past it. There's nobody that can give you assurances other than having new experiences or corrective experiences, right? Yeah. Your trust should not be in man, it should be in the Lord. And as you trust God to bring the right people into your life, you have to also be looking out for any of those red flags that we also talk about. So it is moving forward cautiously, but continuing to move forward. What do you say about that?
I was going to say, and so there's several things that you all put out there. I think that we're going to wrap up with, but I think it's important to throw in some of those things right now.
Yeah.
And so taking time and healing after something very difficult, a very difficult relationship, a difficult breakup, etc. After an abusive relationship, taking the time it requires to heal, critically important. And so you don't really know you're healed, right? A lot of times until you've kind of walked in that journey and you begin to know. Really kind of trusting God, right? And asking God to kind of lead you to that person and trusting yourself.
Yes.
Right. Because a lot of times when you get, particularly in an abusive relationship, when you allow yourself to walk down that road and things get really bad, a lot of times there's question of you, how did I let myself get into this? In fact, those type of questions and the shame that follows is what isolates people, yes. Right? And so once you've been in that abusive relationship, you kind of know what it looks like. And a lot of times you begin to look back and you can see how people begin to, kind of nudge you away from the people that support you and love you, right? And so trust yourself to know what those things look like. And to also trust when you see something that is real, trust yourself to know that you still know what real is, even when you've been through something very difficult.
Yeah. And I'll say this, if you've been through a traumatic experience, the expectation is not that you just take a leap and just, know that, I'm just going to just step out and it's going to be easy. Yeah. It's not easy. And the one analogy I could equate that to is if you had a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. So women who have couples who have experienced miscarriages, when you get pregnant again, if you get pregnant again, there's the whole entire time through the first several months, maybe that first time, as soon as you found out you were pregnant, you posted it on Facebook, you let the whole world know you were excited, you made all these phone calls, you did all these things, you dreamed, you had expectations. And when you lose that baby, it's a hurt that only people who have experienced it can express, right? And can understand. And so if you get pregnant again, there's so much anxiety sometimes and concern sometimes deep inside, whether you are continuing to walk in faith, but a little bit of caution. And so a lot of people will say, well, we're not going to let anybody know. We're not going to say anything until we're at 3 or 4 months when we know after that first well baby visit, right? I mean, or first prenatal appointment. It's the same thing in a relationship. So if you've been through a traumatic experience in a relationship, maybe you were engaged and he didn't show up to the wedding, or she didn't show up at the wedding, or you said I do and they said nothing. And you're like, I'm never going back there. And then you meet somebody that is amazing and you believe this is the person. You decide you're not going to tell anybody until 5 years later when you're already married and you know for sure, and then give it another 5 years. It's the same. It's a human response to very real trauma in our experiences. So that's probably the best way I could equate that. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but it's something like that. As we move forward, we have to have corrective, reinforcing good experiences in order for us to even believe that we can have good experiences.
Yeah, and so I think it's important that once you identify you're in that good experience, to allow that experience to happen, because there's typically two reasons why people will pull up and hold back when they're in this thing, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna wait and not gonna tell anybody. We're gonna see it all play out. A, because they don't want to get hurt again. Understandable. B, because they don't want to look like a fool. Right? Nobody wants to look like a fool. It's like, everybody said it and they saw it and they told you, and you don't want to hear all that again. So you want to make absolutely certain this time. Problem is, you are reshaping the dynamics and the interactions and the growth of this relationship that you're in. Right. And so that can be very stressful on this current relationship, because you've not kind of done the healing. And so now you're trying to heal on the run. Very difficult to do.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
That's good.
All right. So Jerron says, what advice do I give my son who is dealing with unknown baggage? As a father, I see he is trying to understand how to deal with this. How do I help without encroaching on his relationship?
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? I am so guilty of encroaching on my children's relationships.
You are like guilty.
I will say, okay, so my name is Wendy, and in the past, I was guilty of encroaching on my children's relationships, and it even before they were in deep, I was, in it. I was curious about it. I wanted to know what was happening, because of course our job is to protect our children. And so I wanted to make sure that we were there through the process. But the truth is, they didn't want us to be there through the process. They didn't want me in the process. They wanted to know we were there to support them when they came to us, but they didn't want us in it. And so I would say that the first conversation is the conversation with your son. How involved does he want you to be? And because once you have that conversation, then you're able to inform him just by caring for him, but not necessarily speaking to that specific situation, right? It's about loving them through everything that they will experience. It's not about protecting them from anything that they will experience. And so I would just say that, even if we've been there before, we've seen this before, we know how it ends. It's not our job to tell them how the story ends. It's really our job to just be there to, in some cases, pick up the pieces. So in saying that, I would say that if he does come to you for advice, to encourage him to have good, open, honest conversation with the young woman he's involved with. That starts before you get married. And if they're able to sit down and work on their communication before getting married, it will make for a richer and more rewarding marriage. But they need to work that out and learn how to do that now. And that's essential. Yeah.
And it is really challenging, right? Because you do want to kind of jump in there and kind of sum up what's happening, right? Been here, seen it, done it. Closet's full of t-shirts. You don't have to earn your t-shirt. Here, borrow mine, right? We don't get to do it that way. But I do think it's important. What Wendy said is critically important to not encroach, to leave the door ajar, because at some point, and to keep the connection, right? Because at some point, that conversation will happen, right? But he can only fully absorb that conversation if he walks into it, right? He's not going to be drugged into it, and so he'll have to work some things out. But if he wants you to be a part of that process, he'll let you in. And if he doesn't, that's okay, right? Because there's all kinds of times that people decide, right? Young people, or even friends, family, whatever, they decide when to bring you into a conversation. You can't have it prematurely. You can't force it to occur. That particular seed, that will only germinate when it is absolutely time. But when it is time, now you have the ability to share and to not judge, but to even talk about, this is the time, I think, when people are going through, if you can't be vulnerable and transparent at any other time, this is the time, because they need to know that you understand them, right? They need to know that you kind of get what they're going through. Best way to do that is a little bit of transparency. You know what? Here's some things, that I went through. Here's some things that happened to me. Here's some things I saw and experienced. Because when we're able to do that, now it's like, okay, we're having a conversation, and I think there's listening there, and there's understanding and empathy that helps even if his situation doesn't change, it just helps him to know, hey, not alone. This is maybe normal, and it can be okay.
Yeah.
Because my dad's okay.
Yeah, I think that's good. And so thank you. Thank you for that. And hope that helps. So Angie, thank you for coming back around and kind of laying it out for us. So she's saying the spouse is reliving of what the ex did or didn't do while they were together. Therefore, the current relationship is not flourishing, walking on eggshells, praying alone, not knowing what to say or do. And again, I would just say that communication is so important, right? Because it's when I see you react this way or when I see you do this, I'm not sure what that means, right? Help me to better understand why what this is doing this to you, right? This is, having the space or creating a safe space to be able to talk about how we got here is really important. When you get to that place of where you're kind of living parallel lives, right? You're both there, but neither one wants to cross over because it's painful or it's difficult or it's draining or we've been here before and it looks the same. At some point, you're going to have to meet at the same place at the same time. So if you're able to have a preliminary conversation about when we can come together to have the next conversation, then that's how it starts. And then the goal becomes to get to the next conversation.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to solve everything at once. Even if it looks like what it was or it feels like what it was, it's not what it was because the two of you are not who they were.
Whoa. I know some of y'all are like, woo, right? What? You just, I'm gonna need you to like rewind, back up, slow down, say that one more time. Because some of y'all like, what? Think about it. Go ahead.
I don't even know what I'm saying when I'm saying it. When what I said was, even if it looks like and feels like what it was, it is not what it was back then with them because you are not who they were. And so I think, we just have to, same thing that I was saying earlier to Shannon, we're here. Let's look at where we are, even if where we are moved. We thought we were here, we're actually here, or maybe we're here, but wherever we are, where are we? Come together and figure out where we're going. And so I think if you're able to do that, start with the first conversation. And maybe that first conversation is just the entryway to the next one. But before you do that, to pray, right? Even if you're praying separately, pray for one another, pray for him when you're praying separately. But pray first, have the first conversation that prayerfully will lead you to the next conversation.
No.
Yeah. So, yes. All right. So Lady T says, I am very vocal on what I see as it relates spiritually with our children's mate, and then I back off. Let the chips fall where they may, whether the chips are positive or negative. And, it's true that sometimes our children even look to us to be that voice, right? They want to know what we see. They want to know, they want acceptance. Not only do they want us to accept them, but they really, really want for us to accept who they choose. And we have to be very careful about speaking against their choices, because when we speak against their choices or their decisions, the way that they interpret that is that we are speaking against them.
Yeah.
So that can sometimes push them further away than we expect. Not saying that that's true in every situation, but that's certainly something to be aware of. So as a mother and having a mothering instinct and having that desire to really kind of save you some of the heartache and give you some of the vision and foresight, I get it. We get it.
Yeah.
But as our children get older, our goal is to walk with them, not necessarily share that we went before them. They don't necessarily care that we've been there, done that, and wrote the book. They just want us to know that we're there with them, right? Not hovering over, not holding them back. Our youngest daughter told us she's going to London. Thank God. We're just really blessed. She's going to London.
I thought you were like, thank God she headed out.
No, it's just a blessing. But she's going to London, and we're like, yes, we're going to London. And she said, that's exactly how she said it. You heard it. Y'all really don't have to be everywhere that I am.
Because we are totally planning to go to London. Like we're gonna let her get settled down, and we are trying to like You got to go see where you living, what you doing, what's going on.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Anyway, but we're gonna talk about training up your children in the way they should go probably in a couple of weeks. Because some of you are about to send kids off either back to school for the first time or whatever, and, or like I know that the Kennedys, they have kids going to the military, all kind of things.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna talk about that. About what it means, what it probably means to train them up in the way they should go, and then what happens after that.
Oh, that's good.
Right.
That's
good. That's coming up.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Samantha says to pray right before you have to come and get on somebody's couch. Yes. Yeah. So that's another thing. Counseling can be very, very beneficial in situations where the two of you are not able to bridge that gap or find the space or create the opportunity to talk to each other.
Yeah. I mean, because we talked about, and this is probably last year, maybe the year before, but the topic of the talk was that it is not your spouse's job to heal you. They can't do it. They can throw as many things in that empty bucket as they want. They don't have it. They cannot fill it up for you.
Yes.
Right. And so and so what time is it? Yeah, it's probably time to go ahead and just knock out a couple of these points.
Yeah.
Take the time it requires to heal. Right. And if that means getting on somebody's couch, do that.
Yeah.
We're ashamed to talk about the flaws and the ugly parts and all that. Everybody has flaws and ugly parts. Knock it off, people.
Yeah.
But you got to take the time it requires, because healing takes what it takes, right? I cut my hand working on something. I don't even know what it was the other day, right? I mean, I was mad about it because, it was right on the knuckle, and I got to use my knuckle, right? I got to do this. I wanted to heal right now, but healing requires what it requires, period. Doesn't matter that I want it to happen quick. I got to go through a process first.
Yeah.
And so.
Or that thing will open back up and it'll be worse than it was and take longer to heal than it would have the first time.
Or it might get infected and fester and linger.
And then you lose a finger.
So take the time.
That's terrible. Wait. I didn't make it all doom and gloom. But wait, Makiba Jackson, thanks for joining us. Trey Penn, thanks for joining us. And Rail Purposeful. Patrick and Price, thanks for joining us. We're not ignoring you guys. We are just in there.
And by the way, Ponce, don't throw money at the phone or at the screen.
We got cash out.
No need to throw it. Don't worry about it.
Bless you. So yes. So that was number one.
Here's another. All right. So, and we could have put this one first, but seek God and get quiet. Yeah. A lot of times it's like, God, make a pretty guy, and boom, we off. Right? Allow God to speak to you, and even allow. And if you know anything about our story, I've said, I prayed for who Wendy was going to be. I prayed for God to send me whoever she was.
Yeah.
And I would recognize her. The answer is going to be yes. Who knew at the same time Wendy was praying? Wendy had a list of 27 items, 27 things that she was believing God for. I'm like 28.
29.
So there's that. True story. And so seek God and let God answer. So embarrassed. All right. So third thing here real quick is to make space for something new, because as Wendy said, the two of you come together, it is a whole different mix.
Yeah.
Right. So just because something feels like it might be, those are their thing again, it may not be that. Okay. Make the space for something new to happen.
That's good.
All right. Deal with the present in the present. A lot of times we have a tendency to reach back, and we're not dealing with what's happening right now. And so all of a sudden the entire conversation, it changes, because I'm not dealing with you in this moment. I'm dealing with all those other moments I brought forward. So it's really important to be able to deal with the present, like right now. And final thing I'll offer. Are you going to give them those E's?
I am. And I'm going to go through those quick, but I wanted to say this about dealing with the present. I mean, I think because we are a DVR society,
DVR?
We think, like when we want to pause life real time, right? We want to be able to rewind and go back and get what we missed, or we want to fast forward through the parts that we're not interested in. And the truth is, you can only be in the moment that you're in. And so with life, in real life, you get that opportunity to be there. That is critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
That's all I was going to say.
Be there.
About being present.
That's it. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Last thing is, we talked about this. Trust yourself.
Yeah. Trust yourself.
Just because you've been through something difficult, it doesn't mean that you got it wrong. People are complex.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And so along with making space for something new, I wanted to give you some X's that you should bring to the next, right? Because we talked about bringing your X to the next. No, we don't want you to continue carrying that baggage forward from your past relationship. But the X's, the EXs you should bring to create room for are number one. What's number one?
Expectations.
Okay. Yes. So we talk about that all the time. What are your expectations about the relationship, the future, your future together? How do you see it? How do they see it?
Yeah.
What are your hopes and dreams about where this can go? Talk about your expectations. We all have them. Communicate them. So yes, number one is expectations. Number two, excitement.
Okay.
Yes. You want to go into that thing excited. You don't want to go into it afraid, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go into it timid. You don't want to go into it half-hearted because you're afraid that something's going to happen. If you're excited about it, that excitement, that belief, that hope that this could be everything you imagined it could be, that changes everything. If you're going into it expecting it to fail, then that's what you're exuding. Oh, that's another EX. But that's what you're exuding going into it.
Well, I don't want to go through these quick, but that excitement comes along with that expectation. If you've gone to God and you believe that God will not withhold anything good from you, if you believe that He is working on your behalf, it's easy to be excited, right? Because if we're waiting on God and He presents us with that thing that we've been waiting on, it's reason to be excited.
Reason to be excited. All right. So the next EX is expression, right? This really talks about bringing your whole self, but being able to communicate, to talk about the past hurts, to talk about how you became who you are,
good.
all of the things that contributed to how you became you, exclusively and wonderful you. So the next one is example, living out the example of someone who is like someone that you are seeking, right? So if you are a woman after God's own heart and you're seeking a man after God's own heart, then be that example. If you're a man after God's own heart and you're seeking out a woman who is also a person after God's own heart, be that example for them. Live that out, whether they're looking or not.
Yeah. Oh my, you know what? I'm not, it's late. I'm not even going, yes, that's good. That's all I'm gonna say. Did y'all hear what she just said? That's all. Be what you see. Don't be out here like, I mean, you can't be like, like a player and but I'm gonna go get me this good girl, right? You gotta. Anyway. I don't have the time to elaborate on that. That's just real good. Let's write that down for another night. Go ahead.
So the next X to bring to your next is exclusivity. What is between the two of you should be for the two of you. It's not for you right now because I'm saving something for the next, or I'm saving something for the forever. It is exclusively about us. It's exclusively us. Bring exclusivity to it. And then the last one is exuberance, which just another reinforcement of excitement.
So exuberance.
It is
you
how
pulling out the big word, the big guns tonight on the words.
It is the next level of excitement. I am giving my whole self to this thing, right?
Yeah.
Even if it does not work out, it will not be said that I was not all in, that I was not believing, that I was not walking in faith, that I didn't see it, so I didn't believe it. I was all in and I believed it and I had hope. That's what you want to reflect on and look back on as you travel through this thing. So I hope that those X's that you should bring to your next will help get you to your next and help move you and your next to marriage.
We're gonna put all those in the chats because you need those X's. And Poncier is in here, like, it's hilarious. I'm trying not to laugh while you're talking.
She was speaking in tongues earlier. That's so awesome.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys.
Bishopess Wendy, is that a thing?
That's so funny.
Oh,
No, we appreciate y'all so much, and we're just thankful. If you think something that we shared tonight might benefit somebody else, make sure you tag them, bring them in, tell them to catch us here on Mondays at 7. We're on Facebook Live and on YouTube, and every now and then we drop something on Instagram. But it's the Marriage Shop, and we're gonna pray this thing out, right?
Yeah,
you got anything you want to wrap up with?
No, you just wrapped it up so well. I don't even want to. I'm gonna let that sit right there. All right. But we just, like we said, we appreciate you all so much. We hope to see you soon. Bring somebody in next time. But before we leave, as we tend to do, I'd like to pray for you. If that's okay. All right. Heavenly Father, we just come tonight, just thanking you for who you are. Just ask that God, the only thing that we take into our relationships is you. Because we know that relationships, there are 3 seats at that table, but it is us. It is the one that we love, and it is the one that you have brought us. It's you, really, and the one that you brought us together with. So we thank you for your divine guidance, and we thank you for loving us. And we just ask that you help us day by day as we try to hear your voice. Help us to be still and quiet and to hear you and to have the courage to move, to have the faith to move. We thank you for everyone here. We ask that you bless their homes, bless their families, and everything that they put their hands to. And we'll be sure to give you the honor, the glory, and the praise. We pray these and all blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So we enjoyed being here with y'all. Y'all have a blessed week until next week. And we'll be back. I think we're gonna be somewhere else, but we will. I think we'll be on for sure.
Oh, we will be on for sure.
Yeah, from another on the road location.
Undisclosed location.
So we'll see you on Monday night.
Lately I've been constantly thinking about you, babe. You drive me crazy, yeah. And girl, I want it. Got me all up in my feelings. Oh, what a feeling, yeah. I knew the first time I laid eyes on you that you would be here forever. I'm not being arrogant, and I still can't take my eyes off you. 'Cause you made me better, so much better. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime, baby. I love your kindness, I love your confidence. Oh, you're the finest. So glad you're mine, yeah. I don't wanna be with nobody else. Give me your love, that's all the worth I need. Baby, you're priceless to me, yeah. To love you for a lifetime. I'm in the to love you for a lifetime, yeah. Promise I'ma be around, I'ma always hold you down. Won't you come and hold me now? I just got no cool, yeah, I know I got a roof, but I always keep it down with you, yeah. And I know they see, girl, you're my queen, and beauty speaks for itself loud and clear, yeah. Throw it in the air. It's the sweetest sound to follow my ear. And I want the world to know I'll love you forever. And that's a long time, babe. But I got time for you, baby. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime. I'm in the mood to love you, yeah. For a lifetime, baby. Ooh, yeah. For a lifetime. lifetime. Oh, for a lifetime. Yeah, yeah.